Yeah, pretty soon after the game, to be honest. I probably knew, even coming into the tournament, that obviously it was a big tournament for my captaincy and where we wanted to go. So I just feel like it's the right time for me. It's the right time for the team, and for someone else to get the opportunity with Baz to take the side back where it needs to be. But I want to just as well mention a few people, family and friends, who've given me so much support over the last few years, and it really means a lot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you won the World Cup a couple of years ago. The wheel turns quickly sometimes.
Yeah, it does, and that's exactly that. I've played long enough to know how it works and how it changes, and an international sport is ultimately about results, and we try as hard as we can, and put a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat and tears into the job, and obviously it's fantastic to be a World Cup winning captain, but there's a few campaigns in there that haven't quite gone to plan as well. So that's a shame, and I'll be sad not to be the captain anymore. It's a great honour, it's a great privilege to captain your country, and something I'm immensely proud of.
Was it defeat to Afghanistan and being knocked out quite so quickly that kind of brought this to a head?
Yes, probably. I think obviously, two close games as well, which, arguably we could have won and be sat in I'd probably be thinking very differently, but ultimately, results are as they are, and I think there's always a bit of a hangover from especially the World Cup in India in 23 as well. So, I think, and having now been out of this competition, it's quite clear it's time for me to move on.
Will this release you? A final thought? You're going to get Joss, the hard-hitting batsman, been a bit out of nick recently, back again? Yeah,
hopefully. That's the plan, and still desperate to perform in an England shirt, and I think that's one of the things with the leadership as well. I think I think all the best leaders lead from the front with their performance, and I haven't quite managed to be at my best at a few times. I think look at the T20 World Cup we did win. I think that's when I led from the front with the bat, so I haven't managed to quite do that to the best of my ability really since then in the ODIs, and now hopefully I can try and follow Joe Root's lead in the way he's played his cricket since he released the captaincy.
That's Joss Butler speaking to me last night. I also got reaction to his resignation from the England coach, Brendan McCullum.
After the game the other night, when I spoke to Joss, I felt like he was starting to have those thoughts. And then when he sent me a message yesterday saying, where you at, boss? I need to chat. I sort of felt like things were coming to an end. And when he said to me that he wanted to step down, the thoughts I initially had were, don't worry about it, boss, we'll carry on. But then, I think he's made the right decision. He's done an immensely good job for England over the last few years. He's a World Cup winning captain, and he's worn the captaincy quite heavily because he cares so much about the shirt and cares so much about the guys in the dressing room and also all those that support the team. And ultimately, sometimes you don't always get what you want, but I think he can walk away from the post with distinction, and I also firmly believe sometimes that your impact on people is often felt after the fact you've been in those leadership positions, and I'm sure over the next few years we'll see some of the guys that Joss has had under him to really flourish because of how he's encouraged them right throughout.
Yeah, because of the recent result and the Champions Trophy and the way it's gone, I mean, is it inevitable really that change would have to have been made, and perhaps not just with the captain but other personnel as well?
Look, you're always looking at things, right? You make decisions, you make calls on what you think is going to give you the best chance in a tournament play, and they don't always work out. Make no mistake, we've had our opportunities in this series, in this tournament. I think we could easily have won both those games. We weren't too far off the mark, but when it mattered, we probably just lacked that little bit of confidence that you need to be able to get across the line. And I think that's a slight misconception of this team as well, is that they're happy-go-lucky, kind of arrogant type of players. I couldn't be further from the truth. A, they're great lads, and B, they're desperate to perform for all those that support this team and for all those that support them. And if anything, I feel they're actually too hard on themselves. I think they need to be able to give themselves a break and almost be able to let go a little bit so that their talent can really come out. If not, then you're going to continue to find yourselves in these tricky situations in tournament play where you can't quite get across the line in tight games. But look, there's plenty to work with. There's plenty of talent to work with. There's not just within the squad but also across English cricket and all three formats, and we're in a very privileged position, whereas now we can start to try and piece it all together again and try and work out how we get back to where we need to be, which is being competitive and successful across all three forms.
Looking at the start of that run chase the other evening against Afghanistan, was there some confusion there? I'm thinking of the way that Salt and Smith got out. So they looked ill-judged shots, frankly, from 100 yards away.
Look, I think that happens. They're both naturally quite aggressive players, right? And sometimes when you get out, it's going to look ugly. It's just the nature of how it is. But I think we had opportunities in that run chase. When you're chasing over 300, you need a few things to go your way. Unfortunately, we weren't quite able to get across the line. I thought Joe Root played outstanding. Ben Duckett's been superb for us throughout. Two players who, I guess from the outside, most people would say Test cricketers first, and they've obviously stood up and been successful in this tournament so far. But ultimately, we just haven't quite been able to get enough runs when it's mattered, and I think when we've found ourselves with the ball under a little bit of pressure late in the innings as well, we haven't quite been good enough either. But look, it's not through a lack of trying. It's, if anything, it's trying too hard, and we'll try and pick the boys up, and obviously this one hurts. It wears pretty heavy on everyone, because you're desperate when you come into a tournament like this that you think that the squad that you've got is going to be good enough to be able to lift the trophy, but you don't always get what you want sometimes.
Yeah. The next World Cup's up for 2.5 years, so you've got an opportunity to bed in a successor now for Butler, and yet this summer's quite difficult to juggle, because there's a test match, then 3 one-day internationals, 5 tests against India, then South Africa one day, then the Ashes. I mean, whoever you have in place, if they're a test player as well, it's going to be challenging for them.
Yeah, look, we haven't made any decisions yet, and obviously this news is pretty fresh. It's less than 24 hours old, so we'll take time. We've got a bit of time as well after this, before we head into the English summer, to be able to make sure that we work out who the right person is, and whoever that right person is what they need around them as well to be as successful as possible. And between Keys and myself and those at the ECB, we'll have a good conversation. We'll work out exactly what we need, and then we'll make those decisions when the time comes. But I mean, the good thing, I guess, yes, you mentioned the test matches, and you mentioned how busy the schedule is. The schedule is without doubt eased. I think there's only 10 test matches this year, which for England is a lot less than normal. So I think there is still the opportunity to be able to spread players across different formats if they fit what's required. And I think many other teams around the world do it as well. And India has forever had guys who bounce across formats, and Australia, you think of their fast bowling lineup as being very much the same, and New Zealand would be also. So I see no reason why not, providing the schedule allows that to happen. But you do have to be sensible at times as well, and that's one of the challenges that we're going to make sure we're well planned for.
Just the last one, it is such a big year. We'll see you till Trent Bridge and in Zimbabwe, but it's a bit of update really. I mean, Mark Wood, for instance, and also Ben Stokes. Can you give us an update as to how he's progressing too? Yeah,
I think he's progressing pretty well after his surgery, which is great. He's such a big player for English cricket and for us, and as the leader of our test side. And with the year that we've got against India and Australia, it's significant to have him fit and ready to go. So,
and able to bowl, do you think?
Yeah, I think he'd be fine. Yeah, I think he'd be okay. He'll be ticking every box at home. We know what Stokes is like. He's all in, so he should be fine. In regards to Mark Wood, he was a bit unlucky with that injury actually that he picked up, and whether it came from sliding the other night in the dew or he just got caught a little bit on one of his landing as well. But I think he's been exceptional for us in this tournament. And you take out the last few overs against Australia where he was slipping quite substantially in that dew, I thought he was superb right throughout when he's had the opportunity with new ball. He's bowled as fast as I've ever seen him bowl. He's got a very good workload under his belt now. Obviously he'll back it off for a little bit now while we assess his knee, and we're hopeful that that's not too bad. And all going well, he'll be available for the summer as well, and we'll have someone that can bowl in excess of 95 mile an hour in your stocks.
Well, that's Brendan McCullum talking to me last night. If you're just tuning our way, England have set South Africa 180 to win. It's England's last match. It doesn't feel like it's nearly enough, but they'll be underway again in about 15 minutes or so. So that news of Jos Butler resigning last night, we get the view from a couple of members of the travelling media who'll be watching on with us here. Simon Wilde from the Times is here. Chris Stocks, cricket correspondent, also from the Eye. Let's start with you, Chris. Go on. I mean, it seemed inevitable, didn't it, that Jos Butler would go. Perhaps the timing was a bit surprising.
Yeah, it came a little bit quicker than we all thought, didn't it? We thought we were speaking to Joe Root last night, and then we saw Jos and Brendan McCullum walk into the press room here at the National Stadium, and we knew what was happening. I guess it's good it's happened now. They've got time to decide on that successor. But yeah, it does add to a bit of a chaotic feel for this whole trip.
Well, it does, and when you see a performance like this today, I mean, you wonder whether that had anything to do with it. I don't know. I mean, I think today could have gone one of two ways. Could it either have smashed 400 or get rolled over as they have done?
Yeah, I kind of thought it would be them getting rolled over. I mean, we've all been on tours like this. I mean, this is a short one, 10 days, but it feels like the end of an Ashes tour where they've been whitewashed.
Yeah.
And the morale seems to be through the floor, and I think today was inevitable.
Yeah. Well, Simon, you've seen a few come and go as well. Not necessarily midway through a one-day tournament, though. I mean, the timing is surprising. And I suppose if he felt, well, that's it, I've had enough, then he might as well just do it.
Yeah, I think so. He wanted to get the burden off his back, didn't he, really? And the sooner he can get back to being the old Jos Butler, liberated batsman, the better, really. And I think that's he made some comments the other night after the Afghanistan game about how he said I used to be one of the best white ball players in the world, and the team need me to get back to being that. Yeah. And that's hopefully what this decision will bring about, really. That's what England want, is the old Jos Butler scoring runs very fast. So
you say hopefully, then that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's always an easy connection to make. Well, it's the captaincy, that's why he's not scoring.
And he's citing Joe Root, saying, I want to do a Joe Root, score millions of runs as an ex-captain. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But he does seem strangely subdued. I mean, surely this isn't the real Jos Butler. I mean, he's just batted today without hitting a boundary, isn't he? 40-odd balls were very strange. But I guess the wickets were falling at the other end. But yeah, we need him back at his best, and he's not too old to bring out the old magic, I wouldn't have thought. So.
No. And he does seem one of those, Chris, who would be, like Joe Root is, comfortable being back to the back benches, as it were. He's not one of those sort of former captains who's going to make life in any way awkward or uncomfortable for a newcomer coming in. Jos Butler, we know, quiet character. He'll just sit quietly back and he'll get on with his game and try and get his batting form back.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess another person you could look at would be Sir Alistair Cook, who obviously played on for a few more years and did pretty well. England will be hoping Jos can do that when he goes back to the ranks in the summer.
Yeah. Well, another interesting point is that obviously in the last few weeks we've had McCullum saying to Butler, give up the gloves so you can go to mid-on and mid-off and talk to your bowlers. Well, he doesn't need to do that anymore, so does he go back behind the stumps?
Ah, yes.
He went to number 6, try and liberate him with the bat. Does he need to do that now? He's just going to focus on his batting. Can he go back up to 5 or even higher, maybe? So some of those decisions that have just been made in respect to Jos Butler, they could rewind some of them.
Yeah. How do you look back on his captaincy? I mean, he began by lifting the World T20, didn't he? I mean, I think Ben Stokes played quite a big part in that. He sort of dragged them over the line in the final. But however, I mean, you can't take that away.
I mean, I covered that tournament, and he did make some good decisions. I think there was a game at Brisbane, New Zealand, when he suddenly decided to open the bowling with Moen, gave him an earlier. Yeah. And the gut decisions that he talked about last year in the West Indies, when the gut decisions were wrong, often they were right in Australia, and he sort of, I think he had his finger on the pole. Things just worked for him then. And I think he led really well, and he led at the top with lots of runs. But that wasn't the case last year. I mean, he's had 3 bad tournaments in a row, so there was he had to end. But well, it's hard to judge the captain. Was he a bad captain or just an unlucky captain with a lot of great players retired, and he was just left with not much? It's hard to say. I mean, I'd go with the latter, actually. I think he's missed a great generation of retired or departed.
Well, that World Cup win did feature a number of players still they've gone now, haven't they? And so he has had to be part of that rebuilding process. If you are joining us, South Africa need 180 to win, and it's England's last game, and they'll be underway in about 10 minutes or so. There are some captains, Chris, aren't there, who sort of blossom with the responsibility and the leadership, and I'm in charge. I think Ben Stokes is probably one of those, isn't he? You know he's the captain. Do you think that it was a comfortable fit for Butler?
I don't think so, no. We don't know what he's like inside the dressing room, but to us and in public he seems quite meek compared to someone like Stokes. Not quite the alpha male that someone like Ben Stokes would be. I don't know if that was an issue at all in terms of authority. The problem he had was when England appointed Matthew Mott as coach, Owen Morgan was captain. They appointed a coach who was a sort of backseat driver. They had a real strong leader. And he quit, 3 games into the first summer of Mott's reign, and Butler was then thrust into the captaincy full-time, and the coaching captain fit just didn't work. And then we come to that World Cup in India where I think that sucked the life out of Butler, and he's never recovered from it.
Yeah, and he kind of admitted that, actually, didn't he? As he was talking to me yesterday. So who next? I mean, I know you were grilling the coach yesterday, Simon, about that. I mean, have you got any further than Harry Brook?
Well, I've been thinking about it. Obviously, last night and this morning I've just been writing a piece for the Sunday Times about it as well. There isn't a neat answer to this situation. Actually, Butler's resignation, although it might be the right thing for him and the team, has actually made everything more complicated. I don't think there is a neat solution, and McCullum said he's going to have to talk to Key, and they have to talk through, the next sort of 12 months and work out what's best. But apart from Brook, you've got a lot of white ball. You've got several white players in the white ball team who have captained. Sam Curran, for example, but he's not in the team. Phil Stott's done a bit of captaincy. He's not actually playing that well at the minute. No. Liam Livingstone has captained the one-day team, but he's not playing well. And then you can look at someone like Sam Billings, who knows McCullum from Kolkata Knight Riders. He's played there, so they know each other. He did play for the Test team in 2022, but he's not in the team.
No, he might be the sort of character that McCullum likes.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Billings is not the most ridiculous idea,
no.
But he hasn't got in the team on merit lately. My big thing about the Brook decision is, and I'm sort of increasingly inclining against him being the captain, is that he's the central figure in the Test team in one of the biggest years of Test cricket England have had for a long time. 5 tests against India, 5 tests against Australia. Why do we need to give him the captaincy this year? Could you have an interim captain, say Billings or Curran for the sake of argument, and say, let's get through to the next 12 months from now, and then have a look.
T20 in that time.
There is a world, but do we want to win the World T20, or do we want to win the Ashes or beat India? I'd say that's the third on the list, and given that it's in Asia, it's unlikely we'd win it anyway. So are we going to break everything else just to give ourselves a shot at a T20 title in India?
I'm more ruthless than you. I've been sort of totting up. If you tot up the days that Brook could be playing, it's only about 35, isn't it, this summer? I mean, if a 26-year-old chap can't play 35 days of cricket.
Which 35 days?
Well,
white ball cricket?
No, the Test matches. There's 5 tests in the 6 tests, 6 5's 30. Then, 40 days perhaps. Then, if we're all in, is that beyond a 26-year-old in 5 months?
But it's not that. You've got 2 months of IPL, which he's going to do now. Then he's going to come back and play a test against Zimbabwe. Then he's going to captain the team against West Indies in June, because he's the captain. Then he's going to play 5 tests against India. Then he's going to play the 100, and he's the captain of the Northern Superchargers, because Fred made him the captain. Then you got some September white ball matches, and then you go to Australia, New Zealand, Australia. I think you'll be rather tired.
I wasn't factoring in those T20 franchise things that perhaps they've.
Well, when McCullum says the schedule's eased up, he's talking about the England schedule, but we only have a 9-month year for England because the other 3 are the 100 and the IPL.
Yes, that's fair enough. Soxy, what do you think?
Well, I think in these situations, the most obvious answer is usually the right answer, and the most obvious answer is definitely Harry Brook. But Simon's right. The workload for him as white ball captain would be pretty horrendous, actually. You look at the tours that are coming up. I mean, I think the West Indies one-day series starts 4 days after the end of the Trent Bridge Test. We have a white ball series in Ireland finishes mid to late September. A tour of New Zealand that goes straight into an Ashes. it's not ideal. I mean, if he's going to do the job, he needs an able deputy who is a white ball specialist who can fill in. I don't know who that would be. Phil Salt, maybe? But as Simon said again, he's not in good form. He could find himself out of the team come the summer. So,
but how can you seriously rebuild? You're going to have all the inquisition into all. How can you rebuild with a makeshift captain? You can't, can you? If you're going to move forwards, you at least have to know who the captain's going to be.
Yeah. But could it not be Billings, for example, for the next 12 months? And then
it just feels like a bit of a fudge.
It is a fudge, but that's the point. There isn't a neat answer, I don't think.
Right, okay. What did you make of Brendan McCullum's comments? You've heard them there, and talked to him yesterday about this perception of the England team. And I don't know whether he was talking about all the England players, the Test players, all the players on his watch, if you like, when he talked about them being happy-go-lucky and arrogant. Is that your feeling about these players?
I don't think they're arrogant. I think they've been encouraged through the whole sort of McCullum philosophy to go out there and express yourself or whatever. But I do wonder whether McCullum's only just taken over the white ball team in the last few weeks, really. Has the aura of the McCullum Test team, where he turned it round overnight and they became, an incredible team to watch. Has that sort of put additional pressure on the white ball players to think, we've got to do the sort of Bazball 2.0 with the white ball team, and so we've all got to go out and play like the England Test team did, and they've been going too hard, some of these guys, I think. But it's a misguided. I mean, as Root and Duckett have shown, and several other players in this tournament, there's 50 overs is a long time, and you can build a very big score in 50 overs. We've had a couple of scores over 150, haven't we?
Yes.
You can make a lot of runs. You can still score 350. You don't have to get mad. And maybe some of them are just going a little bit too hard. But I don't know whether it's arrogance or just they've got the tactics wrong. But
yes. What do you reckon, Chris?
No, I don't think they're arrogant. I think there's a public perception that maybe they don't care as much.
Is that because of comments that have been made clumsily in the media?
Well, yes. More. There was a game, wasn't it, the final ODI in India, where some quite well-known commentators didn't do their research and put some rumours around that they didn't train at all on that tour, which was completely incorrect, and they were more interested in golf. They do like their golf, but players have got to unwind, haven't they?
They play their golf after they've trained or before they train. I was talking about this last night on the radio. When they train for 3 hours, I'll be down watching them. They train. They don't always net hard, but they do. They work for 3 hours. For a start, the other team has to come in and use the facilities. So what are they supposed to do? Go and sit and play computer games? Well, surely you're better off playing golf, aren't you, than playing computer games?
Absolutely. And this only comes up because they're losing.
Yes.
The one team actually in world cricket that plays the most golf is Australia. You look at the last World Cup, even Glenn Maxwell fell off a golf cart, didn't he, in Ahmedabad? But they won the World Cup, so no one cares.
No one matters.